gonna tell you a secret. There are places in our world where fiction and dreams can come true. These places are a battlefield in a war between the powers of light and darkness.
In 2010, Remedy's psychological thriller Alan Wake took us to a town named Bright Falls. There we did battle with shouty shadow men and chased a trail of loose manuscript pages in search of the missing Mrs. Wake. Now we rejoin Alan in a different place, time, reality and also format. This is Alan Wake's American Nightmare, a downloadable standalone spin-off of the original game. We talked to Remedy's director of franchise development, Oskari Häkkinen, about what to expect.
Okay, so the events of American Nightmare happen after Alan Wake, and Alan Wake has learned a lot since we saw him last. You know, in Alan Wake, kind of fiction was in a way dictating things that were happening in that game to him. Now, Wake has learned to use fiction to his advantage, and we're seeing that in the gameplay as well.
In American Nightmare, Alan faces a host of new enemies, like giant spiders and big burly dudes with circular saws, but chief among them is Mr. Scratch.
I need you to tell me what you know about him.
Now, Mr. Scratch came about after the events of the first game. Now, as we know, in Wake's world, fiction can come real. And after the dust had settled in Bright Falls, the locals started to speak and created this urban legend of Alan Wake, a rock star writer that came to their small town and brutally murdered his wife. Now, we know that that didn't happen, but that's how Mr. Scratch was born. Now, Mr. Scratch is a supernatural serial killer on his way to do horrible things to Wake's wife, and Wake's trying to stop him.
Do you know the real difference between us?
I'm not afraid to be the center of attention.
Well, the backstory goes that early on in Wake's career, he had written several episodes of this TV show, Night Springs, that was seen in the first game. And it had this kind of Twilight Zone feel.
The man before you is a champion of light, an experienced traveler of the unknown, well used to navigating dreams and nightmares alike.
Now, in Alan Wake's American Nightmare, you're playing an episode of Night Springs, and it's written by Alan Wake himself. So again, he's using fiction to his advantage now.
In the game, there's the story-based single-player adventure, about 5 hours long we're told, and an all-new arcade survival mode called Fight Till Dawn. In all, it's a more action-focused, less subtle offering than the first game. But why? And how does Remedy explain that Alan is suddenly an Uzi-toting action hero?
We didn't feel that it would have felt right for Alan Wake, you know, a writer. He's not a commando or a space marine that could all of a sudden be wielding a machine gun. So we had to keep it grounded in reality. But after reading these kind of comments to go a little bit more action focused, we kind of white boxed out these arcade levels, and we threw in wild enemies and wild weapons. And you know, soon enough we were playing it at the office and we're like, this is a ton of fun, this would be a perfect fit for Xbox Live Arcade. Until Sam Lake, our lead writer, of course, steps in and says, you know, fine, but I need to think about how this fits into the Alan Wake universe. So goes away, comes back, and you know, has come up with the idea that we can use the in-game TVs from the first game, Night Springs, which had a Twilight Zone feel to it, to, of course, wrap it in that, and everything can be wilder, everything can be weirder in the enemies and the weapons, because it's framed as an episode of Night Springs.
The first Alan Wake game wore its pop culture influences on its sleeve, drawing heavily on the work of Stephen King for one. American Nightmare steps away from King's brand of horror and turns to a set of pulpy Americana inspirations.
So we lend from popular culture, we tip our hats, in Alan Wake for instance, to some of the greats, Stephen King, Lynch. In Alan Wake's American Nightmare, some of our influences are Quentin Tarantino and From Dusk Till Dawn, so there's different vibe and different feel there.
So that's American Nightmare, out on February 22nd for Xbox Live Arcade in a nutshell. But for a second bonus round, we put your most pressing questions to Oskari.
Unfortunately not. You will. You'll see some familiar characters. Of course, Alice Wake, Wake's wife, and Barry is back. Now, Barry has been a little bit lost since Wake went missing, and he needed to find something to do, as he couldn't be the agent of Alan Wake anymore. So he's now the manager and agent of the Old Gods of Asgard, the band from Alan Wake, and they're back with a new single as well. Yes, there will definitely be a ton of optional story content in there to expand the story in the universe of Alan Wake in the form of manuscript pages, radio shows, TV shows, more dialogue with the NPCs and so forth. That's a very good question, and the first time that anyone's actually asked me that. Actually not. We won't be having any more fiction within fiction within fiction. The TVs are there, but actually it's Mr. Scratch that is sending messages to Alan Wake through the TVs. That's a very good question, and I have nothing to announce on it yet. That's a great question as well. Yeah, I don't know. Is that what people want? A lot of people like Barry. We love Barry as well. We'll see.
We've just got some merchandise ideas to pitch at you, because your biography says you're the man we can pester with book, movie, games and merchandise ideas.
Right.
So yes or no will do, whether you think it's a viable merchandising option. So, Alan Wake branded thermos flasks.
Ooh, no.
Alan Wake Rise and Shine instant coffee granules.
Interesting. I actually thought about it at one point, but no.
Alan Wakey Wakey alarm clock.
Very good idea. Possibly.
Alan Wake Me Up pep pills.
Pet pills. Oh, that could be dangerous, especially if it hurts people.
Right, you don't want to be
Then,
associated
yeah, I don't
with
want to
that.
be associated with that. I say no.
Alan Wake rechargeable batteries.
Oh, that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
But no.
Alan Wake's American nightwear pajama range.
Nightwear. Very good. Possibly. I like that.
Barry Wheeler talking action figure with real light-up action.
Yes, I want that. I want that. I really want it.
We want that too. Alan Wake's writer's block, which is a wooden block that holds pens.
Awesome idea. Can I steal that?
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
yours. Alan Wake nail gun and accessories.
Yeah, I
Dangerous
mean,
again.
Yeah, very dangerous. And maybe if Nerf came on board and, you know, you had those kind of foam nails.
Right, fake foam
Possibly.
nail gun. Right. Alan wakeboarding water sports accessories.
Ooh, a lot of gamers that do a lot of water sports.
There's not a lot of overlap there.
No,
All
not
right,
really.
All right, we'll put that on the maybe pile. Alan Wake's funeral parlour. No one does wakes like Alan does wakes.
A whole funeral parlour.
Yeah.
Branded.
Niche
yes.
again.
Very niche.
Everyone needs funerals.
Everybody
eventually.
does. Maybe we could do that just in hometown.
Right. Mr. Scratch and Sniff scented draw liners.
Let's say no.